And hello again from Fox News in Washington. Well, this week, the long, slow investigation into the attack on the U.S. consulate in Benghazi may take a dramatic turn when government workers with new information testify before Congress. Joining us now are two members of the House Oversight Committee that will conduct the hearing. Republican Jason Chaffetz, and from Massachusetts, Democrat Stephen Lynch. And Congressman, welcome to Fox News Sunday.
Thanks for having us.
Congressman Chaffetz, we know at least two whistleblowers with direct knowledge of Benghazi are going to testify before your committee on Wednesday. Gregory Hicks, who was the deputy chief of mission in Libya, and Mark Thompson, an officer in the state's counterterrorism bureau. What will they add to our understanding of the attack? And is anyone else going to come forward either Wednesday or later?
Well, we've had other people come forward, and I think you'll see other hearings as well. But these two gentlemen are in a unique position. Mr. Hicks became the chief of mission when Ambassador Stevens went missing. He has a unique insight. When I went to Libya about 3.5 weeks after, I was able to talk to him. I think he's patriotic. He's not partisan. I think he was being suppressed a little bit, and we need to hear from him exactly what happened and didn't happen that night. He was the chief of mission in Libya when this went down.
Suppressed by whom?
Well, that's what we want to have a hearing about because, you know, we heard things, for instance, that there was no military option. There was no ability to get any military personnel there. I think you're actually going to hear some testimony that says we did have some military options. We could have gotten some people there, and they were told to stand down. That's the kind of thing that we need to be exploring in this hearing.
And Mark Thompson, the officer in state's counterterrorism bureau, what's he going to tell us?
Well, he oversees what's called the FEST, the Foreign Emergency Support Team. This is a unique group that is supposed to be the quick, rapid response interagency team when a terrorist type of activity, a hostage situation goes down. They were never called into action. Why was that? Why were they never engaged in this? That's exactly what they're stood up for.
Now, you said, and I'm going to bring in Congressman Lynch in a moment, but you said earlier that you're not, these are the only people that are going to testify, along with Eric Nordstrom, who testified earlier, but you said there are a lot of other potential witnesses out there watching. Watching for what?
Well, I think these people are afraid of retribution. They're afraid of what the State Department may do to them. They've had trouble just getting an attorney. The State Department hasn't given us the documents they want. I mean, every single turn, the State Department and the White House has impeded this investigation. It's why it's continued to go on so long. There are other people on the ground with firsthand knowledge that want to testify, and I think will testify at some point.
Congressman Lynch, how do you explain the fact that 8 months after Benghazi, we have still not heard from a single witness who was on the ground that night in Benghazi?
We've had an accountability review board that went through this, led by Ambassador Pickering and Admiral Mullen. They actually interviewed over 100 witnesses who were on the ground, some of whom were on the ground, obviously, and many who were involved peripherally. And they made a review that there was no breach of duty here. They made a determination that the critical element here was that the host country forces that were committed to protecting the consulate there in Benghazi walked off the job, basically. And that created, a security profile that was totally insufficient for protecting it on September 11th.
But if I may, Congressman, why is it that we have not heard in public from a single person who was on the ground in a congressional hearing?
Well, the Republicans control the House. We've had investigations. Nordstrom came forward. We've had other witnesses. You've had hearings here prior to the recent elections. The House, you could ask Mr. Chaffetz why they haven't brought up people if you want to know that. We don't have the ability to hold a hearing. The Democrats have been completely kept out of this whole process. This has been a one-sided investigation, if you want to call it that. There's been no sharing of information in a significant way with the Democratic staff members who usually conduct this type of investigations. I think it's disgraceful, to be honest with you.
Okay, let's get to this question because this has been one of the charges that there have been threats, intimidation, and threats of retaliation. So let's discuss that. This week, a lawyer for one of the witnesses said that the State Department has threatened officials who wanted to testify. State responded and said they don't know of anybody who has requested to testify. Let's watch that exchange.
I'm not talking generally. I am talking specifically about Benghazi. that people have been threatened, and not just the State Department. The people have been threatened at the CIA.
We repeatedly have this person saying that they had a whistleblower who's been held back from telling their story, and we're not aware of this individual or anyone who's asking to tell their story.
Congressman Chaffetz, has the Obama administration blocked potential witnesses from testifying or not?
Absolutely, and more than one. We've asked for the non-classified version of how do these people get an attorney that has a degree of classified information, and they still haven't given us that. No, there are people out there that want to testify that have been suppressed.
But you heard the State Department person just say nobody, neither a lawyer nor a witness, has requested to testify.
Because they're scared to death of what the State Department is doing to them. And that's what, look, we're the other branch of government. They're supposed to be able to come to Congress and be able to share this type of information. That has not happened because the administration is suppressed. We have a person who was injured 8 months ago who's still in the hospital. They changed his name on the medical records. This is a story of the State Department doing things that haven't been done in any other case.
Are you saying, and again, I want to bring in Congressman Lynch, are you, tell me, a direct threat, a direct act of intimidation against a potential witness?
Yes, and I think we'll probably...
Well, tell me what.
Well, completely false.
Well,
completely false.
Let him, before he, go ahead. Tell me what's been said.
There are people, more than one, that have felt intimidation from the State Department. They can't even go through the process of getting an attorney to be able to represent them with the degree of classified information that they have.
Congressman Lynch, your turn.
The only reason that the attorneys, and there have been 2 attorneys involved here, the only reason that they haven't received information is they haven't asked for it yet. They haven't asked for it. There has not been a request for documents from these attorneys to the State Department. The State Department is more than willing to cooperate, but they haven't asked for this. The only retaliation I've heard of here is that one of these witnesses wants a reassignment and a promotion. He hasn't gotten the promotion that he wanted, and he's saying that that's somehow retaliation. So, you know, it hasn't got it yet. It's actually in the process. That's the level of threats and intimidation. He hasn't got the promotion that he wanted yet.
Let me give you another example. The State Department will not release to the committee, to the United States Congress, unclassified documents. Here we are 8 months after. We should be able to look at the same information the Accountability Review Board wants to see. We wanted the Accountability Review Board to come before Congress. That hasn't happened. When we went to actually go see documents, they've given us 8 tranches of documents over a multi-month process. They send a State Department person in there to look over my shoulder to see what I'm looking at. We've had Democratic staff in there. There is not a single Democrat on that panel that has ever come down to look at those documents. I've been down there, but I've never seen a Democrat down there, and it's totally open to them through the entire process.
Congressman Lynch?
Sure. Every time I'm given those type of documents, I have somebody from State Department over my shoulder as well, or other agencies.
That's not right.
That's not surprising.
An unclassified document, that is absolutely not right.
Go ahead, Congressman Lynch.
Look, I find it incredible. Look at this whole situation. We're talking about, including my colleague, Mr. Chaffetz, when Secretary Clinton and the State Department asked for additional funding for embassy security, they all voted no. They all voted no.
No.
They all voted no.
We're getting a little bit off the...
You've already admitted to this on CNN.
I understand that there's an issue about security. It's a little bit off the track. I want to try to stay on course here.
No, this is the point.
Congressman,
they're complaining about a lack of security at the embassies after they voted against for funding for security at the embassies. That's what they're complaining about, is a lack of security at the embassies when they all voted to cut $500 million.
Congressman Chaffetz, answer that.
Is that not related?
The CFO has sent in an email.
Let's use real words.
The chief financial officer for the State Department said in an email that finances had nothing to do with the decisions about funding at the facility. The security personnel were paid from the Pentagon budget. They weren't paid from the State Department budget. This is a facade. It's a distraction. There are 4 people dead here, Chris.
I want to talk about that. Let's talk about beforehand, because there are sort of 3 stages of this: before, during, and after the attack. 2 weeks ago, the Republican chairs of 5 House committee, and I will agree with Congressman Lynch here, it was just the Republicans, not the Democrats, issued an interim report on Benghazi in which they charged that Secretary of State, then Secretary of State Clinton, misled Congress when she said that she had never seen any request for more security in Libya. Let's take a look at what she said.
the specific security requests pertaining to Benghazi, you know, were handled by the security professionals in the department. I didn't see those requests. They didn't come to me. I didn't approve them. I didn't deny them.
Now, the House report by the 5 Republicans made a big deal of the fact that in April, after she'd gotten the request last April, that a cable went out from the State Department under the name of Hillary Clinton. Yeah. In fact, not only not granting more security, but saying the security drawdown would continue. Congressman Chaffetz, it turns out that every cable that goes from the State Department has Hillary Clinton's name. Hundreds of thousands of cables, millions of cables. The Washington Post looked into this and called the allegation by the House Republican chairman a whopper.
Well, I would hope that Steve Lynch would join me in calling for the release of this document. It's an unclassified document. But my understanding is that Hillary Clinton's name is on that line. No, hold on here. Hillary Clinton claims to take full responsibility for this, and yet at the same time pleads ignorance. 4 months.
No, but there are utterly routine documents that go out from
Chris, can I get in here at some point?
Yeah, sure.
Can I get in here at some point? Look, could I please? Look, these are the same allegations. These are Jason Chaffetz and the Republican chair's allegations that she signed off on a reduction in force at Benghazi. It got 4 Pinocchios. 4 Pinocchios from the Washington Post. That's hard to do even in Washington. I mean, you know, people say that Washington is the place where shame goes to die. And this is an exact instance of that.
Okay, Congressman,
right. we lost some
Congressman,
good people
to use your expression, may I get a word in here, please? Congressman, let me ask you a question, if I may. I want to talk to you about a controversy, a continuing controversy about the talking points that came out afterwards that led, some people say, to a lot of disinformation. These are the talking points the administration put out after the attack. Steve Hayes of the Weekly Standard reports that the first draft by the CIA on September 14th said this: the crowd almost certainly was a mix of individuals from across many sectors of Libyan society. That being said, we do know that Islamic extremists with ties to al-Qaeda participated in the attack. This was the first draft of talking points for the CIA on September 14th. But after objections from state, and after the White House had a meeting, you can see the talking points, and it's a little hard to see there on the screen. There are lots of lines drawn through them. They were heavily edited, and all mention of Islamic extremists were taken out. Congressman Lynch, weren't the talking points the administration put out in advance of Susan Rice's appearance on those 5 Sunday shows, weren't those talking points scrubbed?
They certainly weren't accurate. I don't know what the process was there. But absolutely, they were false. They were wrong. There were no protests outside of the Benghazi compound there. This was a deliberate and strategic attack on the consulate there. So any statements that this was sort of like the other protests that we saw in Cairo and other embassies, this was not that type of case.
So briefly, and we're running out of time, Congressman Lynch. How do you explain the fact that that Sunday, UN Ambassador Rice came on this show and 4 other Sunday shows, never mentioned the al-Qaeda extremists, which had been scrubbed from the talking points, but did mention a reaction to the anti-Islam video, which had never been in any of the talking points?
Well, it was scrubbed. It was totally inaccurate. You're absolutely right. There's no excuse for that. It was false information. And what they try to do is harmonize what happened in Benghazi with what happened everywhere else across the Middle East.
And do you think part of that was because, and do you think it was scrubbed because of the fact that that didn't fit into the president's narrative that al-Qaeda was on the run?
Well, I think it was a victory of hope over reality, to be honest with you. They were hoping that this wasn't the case.
Hope over reality?
I wouldn't call it a victory of hope over reality. I mean, that's look, at the end of the day, we got 4 dead Americans. We got a kid who's still in the hospital. We got hundreds of embassies and consulates. We got thousands of people serving overseas. We haven't had the truth. 4.5 months after the incident.
How about we work together on that then, instead of just having 5 Republican... How about we work together? How about having us...
All right, gentlemen.
And we're going to give you 24 hours to go to Benghazi.
And we're going to give you an opportunity to work together off camera before Wednesday's hearing. Congressman Chaffetz, Congressman Lynch, we want to thank you both for giving us a very spirited